So I talk a lot about playing cards on this channel. As most of you probably know, I own a decent amount of high quality cards from like USPCC and Cardamundi. I was thinking about it recently, how I actually started, or what I started with when I started using cards in Magic. I didn't start with USPCC playing cards or Cardamundi cards or anything high quality like that. I started with your dollar store plastic coated made in China playing cards. Like I'm sure a lot of people who are just starting Magic probably use as well, whatever cards are lying around their house. So in front of me here I have a bunch of decks of playing cards. They're all really old, but I wanted to go through a few of these decks and see, if they're still usable. Can you still use them for Magic? Any cards will do. As long as you practice enough and get used to the movement of playing cards within your hands, you can pretty much do anything with any deck of cards. Granted, there are limitations when it comes to certain Sleight, depending on how dirty or old the deck is, can affect how well the cards slide across each other. Okay, so down here are quite a few of the playing cards that I actually used when I first started. I remember using this deck quite a lot, which is actually bridge size, and they're so old now that you can't even, they just clump very badly. They're still usable-ish. They don't look the nicest, obviously, because they're pretty much just paper and they wear quite easily on the corners and that kind of thing. But this is one of the decks I first started with. Some of the others, I used to have a deck of cards like this. This is actually the first deck of cards that I remember using when I first started Magic. I remember taking this to school and that kind of thing. I don't have the rest of the deck here, I don't know where it is. But you can see this massive crease line down the center. And that's from me trying to learn to spring cards. And these, had no resistance and are pretty much just paper. So I just ended up, creasing them down the middle instead of actually springing them. So those are the downsides to using really bad playing cards that are almost paper. There's not much of a benefit or a downside to using bridge size, which means they're slightly less wide compared to poker size playing cards. But I started off with bridge size playing cards. Cards like these. These are kind of old as well, but they're plastic. Obviously, when you're like dribbling and springing them and that kind of thing, they don't look, feel, or sound as nice as higher quality playing cards, but they're definitely usable. What's crazy is decks like this and like these old Star Wars ones are actually Cardamundi cards. So these are poker size, these are bridge size, but they're actually printed by Cardamundi, which is actually really crazy to think about, that these are like, a few years old, but that's what Cardamundi used to print. Maybe they still print them, I have no idea. These are just plastic, but they're not E7 slimline luxury stock or whatever the heck it is that Cardamundi use nowadays. Still usable though. So I showed you a few of those playing cards because that was what I started with, and to show you that, with enough practice they are still usable in Magic effects. Now, I of course wanted to move on to higher quality playing cards, and I remember buying my first bicycle playing cards. I bought 4 decks of bicycle playing cards for like $7 NZ each, but that's kind of expensive for a deck of cards, especially bikes, which are pretty common, but I live in New Zealand, so I couldn't find them any cheaper at the time. So that's when I started shopping around to see if I could find cheap, higher quality playing cards, and I came across these, which look like bikes, but they're actually plastic, and they're from Wish. So I bought them from Wish. I bought like one deck, they were cheap as, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll just, you know, they're probably bad as, and yes, they're just plastic playing cards. So I would not suggest trying to cheat your way into buying cheap, higher quality playing cards like off Wish and that kind of thing. Maybe you'll get lucky, but I probably doubt it. Honestly, your best bet for buying bicycle playing cards is Amazon. So you can buy like a brick of bikes for pretty cheap. I can get it for like 60 NZ. 60 NZD, that's including shipping. 12 decks of cards, which is actually a pretty good price for me. Now the feeling of playing cards is quite different. So when I first opened a deck of bicycle playing cards, I wasn't expecting the poker size, that's for sure. For a second I was like, whoa, these are really wide, what am I doing? Because I was using bridge size playing cards, like exclusively bridge size playing cards, which have the benefit of being slightly not as wide. So if you're trying to palm cards or something, I have more room over here and over here compared to poker size, which take up almost my whole hand. I still use poker size playing cards these days. If you wanted to, there's nothing actually stopping you from using bridge size playing cards. I actually think you can buy USPCC quality bridge size playing cards like bicycles and that kind of thing. Back to when I first opened my first deck of bicycle playing cards, it was really weird. They were slippery as, they were falling out of my hands. I wasn't used to the size of them. I couldn't control them, it was crazy. So I had 4 decks of bicycle cards. I think I kept like 1 of them sealed and 3 of them open, and I was rotating between them. I have the first ever deck of bicycle playing cards I ever opened was this deck right here. The case is completely mangled. There's actually tape like on the sides and stuff that I used to tape up the box. I've put tape like everywhere because I was carrying this every single day, and it's dirty as. So compared to a almost new deck of cards, there's a comparison for how dirty this deck of cards actually is. And I think there's probably ink, yep, there's ink bleeding on it from the rain. I remember carrying this in my pocket and it getting wet, but this deck is still perfectly usable. It's old and it clumps together a little bit, but you could still use it. I'm not going to. I keep it off to the side now because it reminds me of days when I only had a few decks of these. So I basically just wanted to make this video to inform anyone who is looking at playing cards thinking, oh, I can't afford higher quality USPCC playing cards. You don't need them. You do not need them. I could do everything I do with a bridge-sized deck of plastic playing cards if I wanted to. I don't want to, but I could. And that's the point, just use whatever you have. If someone handed me a bridge-sized deck of plastic playing cards, I could do something with them, which is good, because that's probably what a lot of people have lying around their houses. So thank you very much for watching this video if you've made it this far near the end, and if you have, drop a comment. Tell me what kind of playing cards you first started with when you first got into Magic. Was it just whatever you had lying around the house, or did you purposely go and buy a deck of cards to start learning Magic? Let me know. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again on the next video.